consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it.
Welcome. This is Elaine Lopez, your co-host today on People Before Politics radio show, and we have Bob Basketball made it.
Hey, Lorraine, we're matching again today.
Yeah.
This was not planned. Purely
AJ?
coincidental. He is coming in right now.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, yeah, we got caught up in the cross-county
Oh my
traffic.
God, I passed by there.
Yes, it's
There's a lot of stuff going. Oh, cars everywhere.
yes.
We're on the air, AJ.
Oh, okay.
Well, then, was everybody ready for the holidays? Are you ready for the holidays?
Yes, I've been making preparations, buying gifts, all that good stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. You know, I have to say this.
What happened?
I sent out Christmas cards this year, and
That's so
it's a
foreign.
first. It's boring. You think?
It's foreign.
No, it is. You want me to tell you what? And I mean this sincerely. It's something I think. I was curious to hear Charles's thoughts. AJ and I discussed it a little bit. There are certain activities and forms of socializing that are highly gendered. And like
In what sense?
In the sense that the guys that I grew up with, we would never send greeting cards. I took a little informal survey. I know when I mentioned to a friend of mine that I was sending his family a greeting card this morning, he had a somewhat astonished tone of voice. Really? So, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I thought about the significance of that. I've grown in some way.
We celebrate both in the Puerto Rican.
Mm-hmm.
We celebrate both Christmas and Three Kings Day.
Okay.
So it's cool because any gifts that I was not able to get for Christmas, I can go get the discounted price after the holidays and celebrate Three Kings Day.
Wonderful. So I guess that does remind me to extend happy holiday wishes, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah if we have any Jewish listeners who observe Hanukkah. Others, I wasn't sure if Charles is of Jewish descent. So. Oh, it is. You want me to tell what Charles? Okay. I feel thoroughly embarrassed. Don't tell me it was like 2 weeks ago. It ended 2 weeks ago. Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, in any event, let me just stop there. Wipe a little egg off my face.
So I just want to say what's up to everybody.
Hello.
Happy holidays.
Merry
Real
Christmas.
quick before we get started, there is a box, an envelope, and two envelopes on the side of y'all. I would like y'all to open that up. That is from our sponsor. He asked that we open it on the air.
Okay.
Our sponsor, Thai Associates, Income tax preparations, one-stop efficiency, 800-219-4885, www.tieassociates.com. It's about that time as we get after the holidays, we start looking and preparing to get our income taxes done. This is a local business that the local African-American tax preparer, and it's our sponsor for today. So shout out to Tie Associates, and that is his gifts to all of us.
Oh, that's so cute.
You have the same thing on the other side of you.
Oh my God, that is so cute, a little piggy bank pig.
Okay, you have the same thing on the side.
Okay, I know, but I'm watching him open it.
Okay.
And I just opened up
okay.
the Starbucks. Thank you for the Starbucks.
Oh, so
Right, and then there's
we might as well, let me just show our viewers.
yes,
So a piggy bank to encourage
save
those of
money.
you who visit Tie Associates and get a maximum tax return.
Yes.
Save some of it. Don't go out and
Yes,
spend
yes.
every penny.
And we have go back to the show. We had Rashad on Rashad Bilal, where he gave some good suggestions on what to do with your income tax. Don't blow it all, your Christmas bonus and your tax. Don't blow it all on stuff that's not going to last. You know, got to get you a stock, save some money, et cetera, et cetera. So shout out to our sponsor, Tie Associates, Troy Youngblood, Tie Associates.
Thank you very much.
800-219-4885, income tax preparations, one-stop efficiency. And all clients get what we just got, the Starbucks card. I think it's a $25 Starbucks card.
It doesn't say.
He
so.
said but it's a $25. He said it doesn't have a number, but it's $25 on it.
That's beautiful.
And
Very
everybody-
generous of him.
Everybody who gets their income taxes done by him will receive a Starbucks card, a $25 Starbucks card. Tie Associates, 800-219-4885, tyassociates.com. So that is our sponsor for the day and opens the door. We will be doing this more going into 2019. Get in touch with us and find out how you can be a sponsor on People Before Politics. 30 seconds, 1 minute commercial on the radio. So we will be doing a lot more of that. We got away from it. We will be getting back into that. Hey, Cruz, what's going on? Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Cruz.
Merry Christmas.
While we're in the holiday spirit, Lorraine, would you look in the chair next to you?
Yes.
Happy Merry Christmas.
That's from who?
Me.
I should open it?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We want to encourage our audience members to, observe the spirit of Christmas. And here I'm being serious.
Yes.
This is very important. I don't think we say this often enough, but I do think it's important that we seize on opportunities to honor one another, love one another. Here I'm being express
serious.
our appreciation.
Yes.
It's very to important. The people who love us. I don't think we say this
Oh, this is
often in a year.
beautiful. Thank you. Well, God, I needed something like this for the holidays. I'm not going anywhere, but damn it,
But
I
you-
wanted one so bad. Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas.
Look at the material, folks. I'm not looking at it. It's beautiful.
I don't know if
you.
y'all did.
Well, I might be, riding shotgun, when be sure to invite me to that party, Lorraine, when you finally figure it out, all right?
I don't know if y'all did the shout outs yet. Tracy Kate said good evening. Glenn Butler said good evening. D. Wilson said, I do my own taxes on TurboTax. Tired of paying $400 to Jackson Hewitt.
Jeffrey Meyer. Hi, Jeffrey. Pastor Jeffrey Meyer.
Omi Medina said Merry Christmas, Lorraine. AJ, thank you for all the blessings.
Oh,
D. Wilson
Merry
said
Christmas.
good evening, everyone. Sandy Gray said good evening. Other people that are tuned in include Oscar Davis, Cynthia Davis. You said Jeffrey Myers. Any names that I didn't say that y'all can see, please feel free to add to that. So I just wanted to, it's the holiday season, and I wanted to get that out the way. I wanted to, and there's 3 cards for that. I don't have a pen, but I need the 2 of y'all. They're cards from Black Westchester. I need y'all to sign. One is for the cruises. One is for our guest. The other 2 are for our guest. So yes, happy holidays, everybody. I also, before I get started too, today is my mother's birthday. My mother passed 2014, and most people know. I didn't know how I was going to feel, so I decided to write her a little poem, and I posted it on Facebook, and it's very short, and I just like to read it real quick in honor of my mother. On July 11th, 2014, the Lord took you away. You would be 72 today. As I hear joyous songs from this time of the year, I sometimes stop and stare. The truth is, wish you were here. Christmas won't be, without you here, Christmas won't be the same this year. I struggle not just to look behind, but somehow ahead. Truthfully, this morning, I did not want to get out of bed. With sorrow and sadness on full display today, I push on, knowing that you would have it no other way. Even though just one more day with you would make me glad, I thank God for the time that we had. Still, can't help to contemplate what it would be like if you were here. Today I celebrate your life, and publicly, my love for you I share. I love you, Mom, and miss you more than words can say. Happy birthday. That is my tribute to my mother, Patricia L. Henderson, who would be 72 today. And
beautiful.
Usually this time of year I go to my sister's house and I take the week off. I'm here. I'm doing the show. Since I was on the air, I decided that I was going to pay tribute to my mother. Thank you for everybody who gave me comments, people that knew my mom that said nice words of her in the comment section. I love all of y'all. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the calls today. I know a lot of people were asking me. I didn't answer the phone a lot today. A lot of people wanted to know how I was feeling, so I figured I would just write it and just share it that way so everybody could see it, and then I wouldn't have to say it 100 times individually. So
Right.
I just wanted to get that out the way. That's a picture of my mom's, if you can see it in the box right there.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's
Beautiful.
a picture of her, my brother from another mother, Robert Staples, at my sister's house a few years back. A picture of me, my mom, and my dad. I think that's my mother and my stepmother.
Okay.
So I just wanted to share that real quick. So that's all I wanted to do. Thank my mom and my dad. Kind words. Thank you for everybody. I think who holds me down. Shout out to Alita Johnson. What's going on, cousin? I just wanted to all those who tuned in. For all us that held us down this year, that's all I wanted to do. It's our fourth Christmas season on the air. We thank you for all your support. To all those who tuned in, those who support us down. We have a couple of people that's coming on today. We have in a little while, about 6:30, we have a gentleman, Charles Stern. One of the things we will be addressing today is the Mount Vernon controller. We have a couple of people that's coming on today. We have one of the things we will be discussing today is the Mount Vernon controller gave her end of the year report. We have a couple of people that one of the people he has. One of the things we will be discussing today is the Mount Vernon controller gave her end of the year report. All the presidents lost. We have a couple of people that
AJ, you're echoing.
one of the things we will be discussing today.
Yeah, two
Now
people.
I am not. There you go.
Okay.
I clicked on it. Thank you very much for letting me know. Thank you, Tracy. Shout out. Richard Williams, how are you, sir? Lita said, Merry Christmas, AJ. Your mother and your entire family appreciate the man that you have become. Pat loved you and your sister so much. Thank you, cousin. I really appreciate that. So we'll be discussing that. And then we have another gentleman coming on, a new addition to Black Westchester. He called up today. He found us online. He appreciates what we do, and he sent me an email saying, I'm all in. What can I do? He lives in Peekskill. He will be covering a lot of what's going on in the Peekskill area. He'll be doing other articles and stuff. He'll be making sure that the paper gets to the Peekskill area and stuff like that and whatever else. So we're meeting him for the first time. I talked to him on the phone. We had a long conversation on the phone. I invited him to the show.
What's
so we
his
could all meet
background?
him. You're gonna find out tonight.
Okay.
We're all gonna find out together. He shared a lot, right? I mean, he's a security guard, but he likes to write, and he's active in his community. He felt that Black Westchester was like something that more people in the community, like it was a needed service, and we need to do everything we can do to get this out to more people, and he wants to assist in that effort. So
Right.
he
Nice.
is one of the newest people on the team. The community, we the community appreciate Black Westchester. Merry Christmas and continued blessings. Thank you very much. So that is going to be our show today. Again, I repeat, I just walked in the door a little late, traffic. I repeat what everybody else here has already said. Happy holidays to all, no matter what it is that you celebrate, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, which starts, I think, the 26th, or Three Kings Day. Is that how you pronounce this? You say it right?
Yeah,
Three Kings Day, which actually starts when? What day is that?
January
actually?
6th.
Which is actually January 6th. So, happy holidays.
The day of the Epiphany.
The day of the Epiphany. Now, for those who don't know, since we always try to educate the people, what is Three Kings Day? What is the story of Three Kings Day?
Three Kings Day was the day that the three wise men showed up at the barn and delivered the gifts to baby Jesus. Okay. And so what we do is we put hay underneath the beds, and the camels eat them overnight and leave gifts. Yep.
Can you hear me better now? Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm too low. Oh, okay. Maybe someone told me last week that I wasn't speaking loud enough. Maybe that's me. Okay, so I will turn me up and I will speak a little louder. Can everybody tell me if you can hear me clearly now? Thank you. And yo, good to see you, Cruz. It's been a minute. Happy holidays. I don't know if y'all see my man Cruz.
Cruz been doing his thing. We know that much.
Stick your head in real quick. This is the owner of the station, Cruz. He's the guy. He is the man behind In The Mix, the best internet station in the county, in the area.
Absolutely.
Far exceeding what everybody else. I've been to a lot of the other stations, but overall, I mean, the situation, the whole package here is definitely one of the better stations, and we definitely appreciate the love that we've shown and that he's shown us, and we've been here 4 years, since August 2014, and ever since we've been here, he has always continued the to add to the station. Like, you know, you got something, you just stay that way. Now he's always adding something. He put these new mics up. I mean, he did the different backgrounds. He did the different technology. He actually built this himself. You know what I'm saying? So he's always updating the technology. And now, thanks to him, we're broadcasting live on Facebook and other social media. I mean, like, and who knows what he got to plan next. Like, this dude is always, like, in here working some, like, you know. Right. He'll just rebuild the whole thing and just start all over and make it 10 times better. So,
somebody told me yesterday, there was like, wow, Black Westchester, you're on social media, you got the website, you got the People Before Politics radio show, you got the newspaper. They said, you know what? You guys are better than Hot 97.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
Well,
I thank you. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah,
I think we do more community type stuff. Like, they play more music. But I've been shown a lot of love on Hot 97 for me as an artist and for all the artists that I did radio promotions for. So shout out to the whole MS Broadcasting family, Hot 97, WBLS, KISS is no longer, and what's the other one? Power 105. So. I like to see more. This show was encouraged by shows that I used to see, like on I think it was KISS, or it was this
WBLS?
KISS. Yeah, I think it was KISS. Street Soldiers.
Strong Lisa Evers.
So yeah, Lisa
Evers.
Lisa Evers. They used to break down stuff like this. Like, I always give the example. One day, shout out to Rajendra, shout out to Pastor David Randolph Holder. Where from New Rochelle, his church will be hosting the Westchester Black Political Conference in February.
A little more than a month from now.
Yeah, we'll have more on that coming soon. But that Street Soldiers was like one of those shows back in the days when we had the cops was like, back in the days, New York City, like it was LAPD and NYPD. You need a pen? Okay. NYPD became like one of the biggest gangs, and it was, abusing a lot of people of color. And she had a show, What to Do When Stopped by the Police, telling you, put your hands at 10 and 2. And let's just put it this way. That show saved my life like a couple of weeks later when I got stopped by those cops that had been accused of killing a lot of people and beating people up. You know what I'm saying? Like, just my demeanor. And I felt ever since then, and that was back in the like late 80s, early 90s, I felt like I always wanted to put that out, that information out there, that kind of stuff. And we started out doing stuff like that. Me and Damon, what to do, and it's been remixed a few times. What to do when stopped by the police. Then it became how to survive a police encounter. So, which is totally different. You know what I'm saying? So, we've had to remix it, and then and we've spoke to a lot of young boys of how to deal with how to survive a police encounter, because you have to do what you have to do to get home. Like, the cops are doing what their intention is to get home, and we need to teach our boys what to do just to get home. If your rights are violated, then, you have other actions afterwards when you're home safe, filing and CCRBs and filing complaints with whoever. But you do what you got to do to get home. And we want our brown boys, black and brown boys to come home. There's too many of them that end up not coming home after police encounters.
There's a well-known saying, discretion is the better part of valor, or, to use my father's words, a good run is better than a bad stand.
Yeah.
And what you heard me say, that my mother used to tell us all the time, you could be right and they could be wrong, but it don't matter if you're dead right. You don't have to be dead right. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
wants to be dead right?
Just because you're right, you don't have to be dead right. Sometimes it's okay to back up and retreat and get home safely and then deal with it afterwards.
Right.
Because you're gonna lose. They have the power, they have the gun, they have the oath to arrest you or whatever. So
authorized by the state to use lethal force.
Right. They have the license to kill. I mean,
that's basically what it comes down to.
They are the only group of people that actually have the license to take your life. Like, So anyway, on more joyous subjects, I just felt like that's what. But I wanted to shout that out when you said Hot 97. It reminded me of the shows like that, and then the shows like Bob Law, Gary Bird, and a lot of talk shows that our parents listened to that we grew up on. You know what I'm saying? People before politics is trying to, stand on their shoulders and be the next generation of that, and distributing information, educating people about their rights, and speaking truth to power. So, that's what we. Shout out to Kevin Gordon Sr. You know what it is? I figured it out because I watched a couple of shows. When I look at this screen and I'm looking this way, I am no longer talking into the microphone.
Oh, okay.
That is because I did hear, I just realized I caught myself just now. I just watched myself a few times watching the show to edit it, and I was like, yo, I'm realizing I'm reading this, but I'm looking that way, and I'm not no longer speaking into the mic. And that's why people sometimes can't hear me. I will work on that. So have y'all done what did you do this week? What you been up to? Lorraine, what have you been up to? What have you?
I spent the weekend with my grandson, and I met my first neighbor friend. I finally have a friend after 2 years.
Yes. I'm very happy for you.
Leslie.
Yes. Hey, Leslie, how are you?
And we met on the Putnam Lake Neighborhood Association site, and she lives 2 blocks away. And last night she did like a midnight run, showed up outside my house. I went outside, and she brought Bloody Marys.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say usually midnight runs. That's what they involve, something like that.
And we had a couple of tokes, and it was really cool.
Okay.
And I like my new friend.
Okay.
Now, because I know that you weren't pleased by some of your neighbors.
Oh no, those neighbors I still hate him, and she wanted to go after them yesterday at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was like, "Are you crazy?" And
discretion is the better part of valor.
And then I got invited to her house since I'm going to be up at the lake. I got invited to her house for a couple of hours on Christmas. And then I got invited by some other neighbors to stop by. I don't know them, so I'm going to, politely decline.
Well, sometimes it's like, when we grew up, we knew all our neighbors.
Right.
Our parents knew our neighbors, the other parents. Like when you would, I know, like you would go out and other parents sometimes would see you even though your parents didn't see you, and sometimes call home, and before you got home, whatever you did that you wasn't supposed to be doing got home before you did, because everyone knew each other. Mm-hmm. I tried to do that with my daughter. A lot of the people that my daughter, when she was younger, I wanted to know. I would have her invite her friends over. I wanted to know who, because they spend more time with their friends than they do us sometimes. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to know who her friends were, and I wanted to hear where their minds was at. Because if they talking all crazy and they all over the place, that's what influence. They have a lot of influence over, as friends over your child. So you need to know and you need to know their parents. You know what I'm saying? So we've gotten away from neighborhoods. That's the problem. Like, we have hoods, but we don't have neighborhoods. Like, we've lost the meaning of what a neighborhood is. Like, you have neighborhood watch. You just say we always had, like, I always had the aunt or the neighbor that was always in the window. My Aunt Minnie on what's that, Lincoln Avenue going from Pelham to New Rochelle. She was on that building right there off of 5th Street. You could not go by that area without her looking out the window and her talking to everybody in the area. Like, when I would be sometime in New Rochelle when it was school days and I was supposed to be in Mount Vernon and I had to come home that way. I could never get home without her seeing me. You know what I'm saying? It is like, we don't have that no more, or where we all know each other, and that's what's missing in our. That's why we're so divided, and some of the things that we see going on in society now. We don't have we're missing the neighborhood aspect now.
And I also a couple of days ago had breakfast with the Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins. That was very nice.
Yes, DCE
Spent a
Jenkins.
good time, reminiscing and talking about the future, present, and things like that. So that was very nice.
That's beautiful. I also just want to say about Lorraine. Lorraine is very humble.
Don't go
Lorraine
there.
does not know how she doesn't know her reach, like her influence sometimes. She just, and she's shocked. Like, the DCE ain't called me and Bob to have lunch. And
I live right around the corner from Good Tech. That's why I don't know. I don't really. I've had the pleasure of making his acquaintance recently, and
like he doesn't do. As a couple of people said, where is Damon Jones? He had just tuned in. I see he popped up. Shout out to DK.
Yes, D.
Shout out to
Damon.
Shout out to Montika and Maisha, who did their annual Cupcake Cutie gingerbread house decorating party. It's always a beautiful thing. The kids come and they put all their things. And I met all the little girls, including your grandniece.
My nieces were there.
Yes. Yeah, and her mother. I met Pure's daughter. Mm-hmm. I met them. They talked.
I came to discover you have a rather large family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know? You did not know that?
No, I didn't realize.
All different colors and shapes. We are.
Okay, that's a good thing.
There's 11 brothers and sisters.
Okay.
And everybody.
Because I joked when he heard me say, okay, out of Lorraine's, I was joking. I said, out of Lorraine's 18 brothers and sisters, who do you belong to? And she said, because I was like, He said, does she really have 18? No, I said, no, it's like 10 or 11. I was just being funny, though. So, popped up on the screen, Black by Popular Demand, is the incredible DK Jones. Say what's up. I think you're on.
Yo, what up?
Hey, man.
Yeah, DK, what up?
So you missed, we all got gifts from our sponsor, Thai Associates, Income Tax Services.
Tying it all together.
Troy Youngblood gave us a little piggy bank with his logo on it, a calendar, and a Starbucks card for $25 for all of us. I have yours whenever I see you. We opened it on the air. Because that's what he asked. He said, I got something for y'all. Can you open it on the air?
Tell brother I said thank you. If you're watching, thank you very much.
Yes. And he said, I watch all the time. I just don't tune in so you can see me. But he said, I watch the show every week.
Well, it's very much appreciated.
So, yes, he is our sponsor this week. We're going to be doing sponsors from now on. Doing a lot more sponsors, and if you want to be a sponsor of People Before Politics, contact us at Black Westchester and blackwestchester at gmail or blackwestchestermag@gmail.com and find out how you too can be a sponsor for the People Before Politics radio show.
And how do you get how do you get a hold of Mr. Troy Youngblood?
One more time. Let me do his little thing ones. So it's Thai Associates.
Tying it all together.
TY Thai Associates. 800-219-4885 and tyassociates.com, all one word, www.thaiassociates.com. income tax preparations, 1 year, one-stop efficiency, and all people who get their income tax done by him will receive a $25 Starbucks card, which we've all received as well. So, shout out to John Rivera. He said, "Hey AJ, hey Lorraine."
John Rivera's got an amazing story to tell.
Stan Ridley just joined in, and Damon, Pastor Holder's tuned in from New Rochelle.
Hey, Pastor Holder.
Yeah, he's tuned in. Michael Williams just tuned in. So now, John Rivera's, what's the story? You saying he has an
No,
incredible
he's got an incredible story. You know, when from homelessness to harassing the county executive.
Oh, that's John. Okay,
yes,
so yes,
John.
John.
To then working with the county executive, and the county executive has helped him get a place and the resources that he needs. You know, and they're friends now, and they're working together, and it worked out for him, and it's a beautiful story, and he's gonna write it for us for the paper.
There you go. Yeah, because he called a few times, and we were gonna have him on the show, and then I decided not to.
No, it wasn't that. We was gonna have him, but George Latimer's office called him and told him come on in because they had some stuff for him, some resources for him.
So we were waiting to find out what the other side of that was.
Yeah.
And then we'll have him on
And it worked out.
soon and let him just tell his story from all he'd been through. So we're going to get into the conversation with our first guest, Charles Stern. Would you enter the studio, please? He's in the green room. Oh, my phone was on, not on.
That's appropriate introductory music
Right,
for Charles.
Right. Brandon, are you outside? The park in the next
Wherever
parking
you
lot
like,
next
Charles.
door where it says
Whatever
windows.
sequence
That's where we
you-
are. All right, cool. All right. That was our next guest. He's couldn't find a place. He was parked over by Reverend Norman's office. So I told him to come on over. So Stan Ridley said Merry Christmas to all. Merry Christmas, Stan Ridley. Let me turn on.
Yes, Merry Christmas,
Merry Christmas,
Brother Whit.
Yes. So we had this week the end of the year. The Mount Vernon Controller had her end of the year financial report. Atif Khalil was there, and he wrote he wrote a coverage of it. And our guest here, our guest host Charles Stern, who comes in from time to time, who has read Blue Talk, he was there too. And we're going to discuss some of the things that were discussed there. So first off, happy holidays to you and your family.
Well, thank you, AJ. Thank you. Happy holidays to my entire Black Westchester family.
Yes,
Happy
Thank you,
holidays
thank
as
you,
well,
you too.
Charles.
Happy
if
holidays.
I had known, if I had gotten the advance memo, I would have worn my crimson.
Right, because
But
I
I
should have had crimson on too.
Yeah,
I was like,
I didn't
I
know
have
that.
something that color actually. Yeah.
I didn't know about that. So here I am. And, but thank you for the holiday wishes. I hope you guys are doing something great with your families after this. And we got a couple more days. The next thing you know, it's New Year's Eve, and 2019 is here.
Well, Damon just stepped back on the screen. I don't know if y'all can see him, and me and Bob might crash his house Christmas. We're not sure yet. So
Yeah.
we were invited. Okay, now it's full screen. Now you can see him. So we were invited. So we might crash Christmas at Damon's house. See the Batcave actually.
If people can find the address, everybody's invited.
Aw.
He said if they can find the address. Now, good luck with that, because I still don't know the address technically. so good luck with that, because he's not giving up the secret location of the Batcave. So
The Damon party.
Damon, Tasha had a lot of wonderful things to say about your wife.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was a great event. It was a great event.
and they do it once
Yes,
a
I
year.
attended also, and I agree.
Yeah, go ahead.
And one of our favorite bunch of supporters, the young ladies who have been doing, the little girls.
Yes. All the girls.
I forgot.
I
What's
just
her name
remember. I
again?
remember nobody's name other than Skylar Lopez, because I learned that Lorraine's niece. She was so cute. The girl who was on the show, I don't
Yes.
remember her name, but she came on the show, and then she did a commercial for us right then and there. She was like, and we're gonna post that soon. She said, "I know y'all all out doing your holiday shopping, but don't forget to read Black Westchester."
I saw that. I saw when she did that. She was on the show.
Yeah.
Right. But she just did a new one because she's done riding on the bike, extra. Read all about it. Black Westchester. This is a new one, and they got with Montica, and they're going to do a cupcake cutie skit.
Heard.
Yeah, so they were discussing that yesterday. The little girls are going to do a cupcake cutie skit.
That could be like your channel trailer.
Yeah, there are little, these girls are gonna, and the main one who was here, she is going to be a star. There was 3 people saying, I need to get her autograph now because she's going to do big things. Like she is not shy. So
Get her while her rates are
Everybody's
low.
still saying you have an echo.
because I hold on, small screen. Every time I refresh, I have to. No, I shouldn't have an echo now because the volume's down.
Paul Anthony Cuesta is tuned in, and he wrote an excellent article for the paper next month.
Okay.
Excellent. We'll be sure to give it a read.
Share screen. Okay, what the heck did I just do? Get off of that. There we go.
Okay. Oh, it was Damon's voice.
Damon has the echo.
Oh, Damon, you have an echo, so I don't know what you're doing over there, but they're saying you're echoing.
Oh, it's probably because I'm using my phone this time. I'm not using my computer.
Oh, okay. Well, something is echoing. I can't do anything on this end. I have you down
He sounds
as far as I
okay
can
on our
turn you.
side. I heard it out on the hall. He sounded okay.
Yeah,
Damn,
okay.
but look at how big Damon's arms look. Oh, wow.
Yo, I'm gonna just say.
He's so scary.
I'm gonna just say, yo, in a confrontation, in the last, we won't even, y'all all saw it on video. In a confrontation, during the last election cycle in the 2015 election, and someone decided that they were gonna go up in his face and start yelling at him, and they were going back and forth. I grabbed Damon's arm,
And it was solid.
and it was like grabbing a tree trunk.
Yes.
And it was as easy to move as moving a tree. Like
you can get
Not
nowhere
very
with
easy
it.
at all.
so common sense kicked in and told me take 3 steps back. So if he started swinging, I don't catch nobody's blow that was meant for somebody else because I was like, I am backing. I kept the camera running, but I made sure I stepped back a good 3 steps. I was out of reach because I really thought he was gonna knock somebody out for real. Yeah. So. It's like, you ever try to push a tree? That's like grabbing his arm felt like, for real. That's it.
Yo, what up, Trace?
So.
Tracy's on.
Oh, yeah. So going back. So no. I have to. So now everything's different now. I used to use the Facebook on this screen, and now that Damon's on the screen, I can't also use. I got to post Facebook on the other screen, so I don't see nothing no more.
To see,
Like-
to see the
okay.
chat. In a
Yeah,
second
to see the
window.
chat and everything, I have to now pull it up on this screen.
Gotcha.
So I have to make that adjustment. So anyway, going back to the end of the year financial report. I did want to cover that a little bit because that was the big discussion this week. There were a couple of things said. There were some allegations made. And I'm gonna let you break it down because you were there. I watched it, but
Sure.
I want your
Sure,
professional
I
opinion.
will try to give you a report on the report. And by the way, I sat right next to Atif, so he saw the exact same thing I saw.
Right. So when he turned his camera, that's how I knew you were there.
Yes.
And I
Yep.
reached out to you right away.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. I appreciate that, and thank you again for having me on the program. And of course, I've already brought the holiday wishes, but I just want to thank everybody again. You guys have been very generous in my direction and helping me really to build an audience for RedBlueTalk.com, which is my website and my YouTube channel and all that. And I appreciate that. And I hopefully have been able to bring some value
shut
to
the door?
Black Westchester at the same time. So I hope that it's been a two-way street. So let me tell you what happened on Thursday night. I got an invitation probably a week ago, and I saw that Deborah Reynolds, who's the controller for the city of Mount Vernon, the financial controller of the city of Mount Vernon, was going to have a session to talk about 2019, and it just kind of sounded like a general information session. So I thought, well, let me go check it out and get a different perspective on what's happening in Mount Vernon. So I go. So who, what, where, when? It's now Thursday evening, 6 o'clock. City Council chambers. There's approximately, I'd say, 30 people there, although I suspect a majority of them are city employees. But there's some residents and bloggers like me and some other people. So, but altogether, maybe 30, 40 people at the most.
And I just want to say, and the numbers go down now because everybody's sitting home waiting for somebody to put it on Facebook, so they can watch it sometimes when they don't have to be there.
That wasn't a strong audience.
No. We've had packed sessions where you had people standing in the back.
Absolutely.
On all three walls were just full of people standing.
Well, I attribute that to a couple things. One, it's the holidays. People are busy, they're doing things. And two, the controller is not the same as mayor. And maybe if it was the mayor, maybe it might have drawn a larger audience. But nevertheless, that was who was there. And you're right about that Facebook thing, because one of the things that we were talking about before things got started, I was talking with Atif and a couple of other people who were there. There was several people who were videotaping the session. And, they're like, everybody's basically videotaping the exact same thing. And they're playing it back in different places. And what we were saying was, why doesn't the city just provide a feed? Like, let one person videotape the event and then push it out on the internet and everybody can have it. So
does that make too much common sense?
Right. Well, so I think it's a go-to. It's what we should probably strive for, and it should be an objective. But nevertheless, here we are, and like everybody, and I'm running my own individual audio recorder, and other people are doing different things. So what this was basically a 28-minute speech by Deborah Reynolds, the Mount Vernon City Controller, where she probably spent at least half of that time enumerating what might be in a 2019 fiscal budget, but the other half of the time she was really, what's the word, I guess, hitting the mayor on some very specific points. And she brought up a couple of specifics about why the city is in a precarious financial position, in her opinion. So let me share a couple of things, kind of in the order in which they came up during the program. She mentioned that the controller put a system in place beginning in January 3, like a 3-year partial payment plan for people that are behind on their taxes. If you were behind on your taxes in 2015, 2016, 2017, she's got a system in place. You have to ask, you have to walk in and make a request. But it's possible to go on a payment plan, so people who are behind on their taxes have an opportunity to catch up. She mentioned that she had asked the city council to lower the interest rate for back payments to 6% from 12%. Apparently that was something that was not enacted by the city council, but it was an initiative that she tackled. She then began to talk about, and this is where the strife and the strain begins, and it begins to escalate rapidly from there, and I will get into it. She started talking about the Urban Renewal Agency. So the Urban Renewal Agency basically is a conduit for federal funds. Collectively, it's referred to as a community development fund. There are 3 components to it. There's the Community Development Block Grant, the Home Investment Partnership Program, and something called Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS. So the controller is saying that this funding stream is actually bypassing Mount Vernon right now because of, and I quote, misappropriation of Section 8 grants not being properly administered, and apparently this grant is now being dispersed elsewhere, such as White Plains, unquote. So that's where it kind of started to unravel a little bit. She said in order for the URA to continue to receive grant funding, the city allowed the Urban Renewal Agency to share the city's DUNS number. So a DUNS number is like an administrative grouping. It's some kind of a administrative gimmick that allows the city to lump its funding along with this URA and thereby continue to receive monies. Apparently, they're filing audits together. But the controller is basically saying that these problems could cause the bond rating of the city to be deprecated. Moody's could downgrade the city of Mount Vernon. She says that the 2016 and 2017 URA audits were not completed and that to date they have not been filed, which presents a borrowing risk for the city, which could have an impact on budget, and which is obviously where she's headed. So she then read from a December 20th email, an email she received the same day from someone at Moody's, and she read it off. I quote, "If the URA audits oversaw by the mayor for 2016 and 2017 excuse me, are not filed by January 1st, 2019, the city's credit rating will negatively be affected, and the city will possibly lose its state funding as well. So then she begins to get into the meat and the potatoes. And I guess what I need to say before I go into this section is, if you were to ask me what the problem is, why there seems to be some strain and some strife between in Mount Vernon City Hall, how would I characterize it? On a scale of, like, cold to burning hot, I think it's a bit of a dumpster fire. I think it's a serious problem. Right. There is a gap between the controller and the mayor that you could drive a truck through, because she is saying one thing and he is saying another.
Wow.
But they're not just saying it, they're suing each other, and they're on opposite sides of these lawsuits. And
their history goes back to when they both served as council people when Ernie Davis was mayor. There was a lot of rift between them.
Right.
They were kind of the outsiders of the...
Thank you for reminding me, AJ, because really what I need to do, because I know you have people watching this from all over creation. They're not familiar with... Oh, okay. It's a Skype call, if I've ever heard one.
Okay, Damon is back. We had lost him for a while.
Hey, Damon. So AJ, you reminded me. I really need to fill in the cracks a little bit here, because not everybody is familiar with recent Mount Vernon history, and I will try to do that as briefly and as efficiently as I possibly can. So, the mayor of Mount Vernon is Richard Thomas. Mount Vernon's city controller is Deborah Reynolds. These are both elected positions. In 2015. Both of these individuals ran for mayor against each other.
Right, former city council. They were city council.
They were both city council members together. They sat on the same city council, and then in 2015, they both ran against an incumbent mayor, all Democrats. They ran a 6-way primary.
Yeah.
Thomas won that primary.
Deborah got knocked off the ballot.
Right. So 2 years later, Deborah Reynolds runs for controller against a longtime incumbent, Maureen Walker,
who also ran for mayor,
who was also in that previous 2015 race and lost. Thank you. And she's successful. So the context in which all of this is going on, to bring it up to December 23rd, 2018, is you have a mayor and a city controller who were both successful insurgent candidates and ran without the backing of the local Democratic Party. Now, I think that that's relevant because it speaks to the potential for political instability. It speaks to a culture in City Hall where there's a significant number of jobs and appointments that were made, under a previous administration or under administration that has an uncertain connection to the broader party system that's in place. That is just fact. That context, I think, matters for all of this. Now, so here's the situation that we're in on last Thursday night. The controller is basically saying that here we are at the end of the year, and we don't have a ratified budget for 2019 for the city of Mount Vernon. We don't actually even have a proposed budget. And this is accurate. What she points out is accurate. What we have is a draft by the mayor that's been published online. It's on the
city website.
It's on the city website. It's on. It was on, actually, the mayor published an article on Medium.com, where he kind of explains the pluses and minuses of this proposal. That budget.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, no, continue.
Well, that budget, that draft budget, which was not presented to the city council, was not ratified by the city council. It was not in front of a public hearing.
And it also didn't go to the board, the BOE.
Didn't go to the Board of Estimate, which is the very key thing that the controller pointed out. But nevertheless, it's a draft. I mean, we can call it a Facebook budget. You can call it whatever you want.
The mayor usually puts a proposed budget ahead of time, and then the mayor puts a proposed budget first. And it's kind of like Maureen used to explain like this. It's kind of like a wish list. These are the things that I would wish to have in this next year's budget. Then it would go in front of, there's usually a public hearing. It usually goes before the city council. It usually goes before the Board of Estimates. They all vote on it. If not, they make adjustments, and the controller then makes a controller. Like last time, it was the controller and the city council. They worked together and made adjustments. You know what I'm saying? And then
that's just. I just want to be clear. The controller does not exercise any unilateral authority. It is always a majority decision that's made in the Board of Estimate.
Right.
I wanted to say that because I thought that the controller made a very misleading characterization of her role in Mount Vernon city government when she described the controller's office as a third branch of government, which it is not. We have an executive branch, we have a legislative branch, and we have a judicial branch, and she is neither of those. And I just thought it was. In any case,
she's an elected official under the city hall structure.
She's the CFO. She's the
CFO of the city. It's a municipal corporation. It has a $110 million a year budget. I mean, here's a very basic idea. It's a municipal corporation. Your CEO and your CFO should naturally be aligned to the same set of objectives, just by default. Even if one was a Republican and one was a Democrat, the state constitution there's so much regulation around it that you almost have no choice but to be in favor of the same things, which is fiscal stewardship, balanced budget, and appropriate use of public funds. I mean, they both have to want those things. And yet, there's an unbelievable, inferno taking place in Mount Vernon, and she explains. So let me go on from here. So the mayor's draft budget is associated. It's $116 million annual spend, and that's up from $111 million in the 2018 adopted budget, and it equates to a 2.68 property tax increase. My understanding is the tax cap in Mount Vernon is 2.7%, which is a miraculous 0.02% underneath the tax cap.
Holy cow.
Right? So she says that the controller claims that the mayor's draft budget is really, she said, a 20% increase.
Even though he said it was only 2 point something.
Even though he said it's 2.68, but she doesn't actually say why in the course of the 25 minutes.
And that's what the Teef brought up.
Right? She doesn't actually say why. She doesn't present her own draft budget, which she doesn't need to. In fairness, she really can't present a budget because what's been presented by the mayor has not gone to the Board of Estimate. It hasn't been through that process that we discussed a minute ago. So I
just want to stop you right there.
There's a gap.
That's where she lost people, because she said his budget was irresponsible, and then she put together a budget that she hopes that people vote on. So people were saying, okay, so let's see your budget, and then she goes, well, I can't put my budget out until he puts his budget out. So that was very misleading, and a lot of people were lost in the translation of a lot of things in that situation.
It makes it complicated to follow what's going on. So I tried to make some sense at it. So that she then, that really was maybe the first 5 minutes of it, and then she kind of really launches into two specific areas where she's got a beef with the mayor. One is this issue around Munis. I should explain what Munis is. Munis is a computer program that is basically like a general ledger on which the business of the city operates.
Municipal.
What does it stand for? Atif has that in the article that you published on Black Westchester, so that'd be a good way to find out what that acronym stands for. But Munis basically is a computer system that the POs are entered into, the invoices are paid against. It basically creates a workflow by which approvals are associated with every step in the financial process. The financial controller, naturally, would have to have complete access to that system in order for her to do her job. Her workflow depends upon access to Munis. But she says she hasn't had access to Munis for 7 months.
Well,
why?
Actually, she said the mayor used his IT department to lock her out and remove her access.
Is that even legal?
Therein lies the question.
There's a question. That's a question. Hey, AJ, by any chance, do you have that audio clip I sent over?
Okay, I'm going to get to that. Go ahead.
I just want to point out that we are still trying to confirm the veracity of the controller's claim, because she did not provide any kind of documentary evidence, which I think Malcolm Clark legitimately raised or alluded to, I think. And so we just have to be mindful of that, although I have no reason to believe that she would prevaricate on such an important matter.
Bob, it's incredible, and the whole thing is very hard to understand.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying, it's a little bit of an inferno, because we're in a situation. So I hope we can get this clip.
Which
the clip that's you put the word Munis in the label.
Okay.
If you could play that one back, we're going to hear in her own words how the city controller describes her predicament.
Okay, hold on, let me pull that. I sent it to you purposely so I can pull it up in your box. And while we're here, while I'm pulling this up, I know you saw someone enter the studio. This is Brandon Park from Peekskill, who will be one of the newest additions to Black Westchester. So,
AJ, it's finally,
yes.
like, honestly, this is like an early Christmas present. I'm not even gonna lie. For real, like, thank you.
It's a pleasure.
So it's really, it's a pleasure finally, like, meeting you for the first time in the flesh and meeting all of you guys too.
Absolutely,
Thank you
my
for
brother.
having me on the show.
Welcome, Brandon.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm getting ready to play the clip now. I think I already started. Hold on. Let me put that on the screen by itself.
When I was able to function in units, I could review and approve all purchase orders.
I'm starting it over.
When I was able to function in units, I could review and approve all purchase orders, verify funding in accordance with the charter, but I no longer have the ability to perform this action since being reached out, which causes havoc today. Several months ago, Mayor Thomas and his administration, his management service department staff, removed me from being the administrator in units. And the mayor now has taken over and controls the financial system, which is a violation of the city charter and a violation of the separation of powers in government.
Okay, that's
All right.
that's the end of that.
So there you have it. Are we back to us?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to give me a second. There we go. We're back to us. Yes.
All right, great. Okay, so you heard that clip, and basically she ended up by saying Mayor Thomas and his administration removed me from being an administrator in Munis. So I reached out to the mayor's office, and on Friday, Maria Donovan, the mayor's counsel and spokesperson, said, and I quote, this is Mayor Thomas's office, she says, quote, any allegation by the controller that she has been, quote, locked out, unquote, of Munis is demonstrably false, unquote.
So, and what evidence was presented to demonstrate the falsity of the claim?
The answer to that, Bob, is I was pointed to the petition by the mayor to the governor of the state of New York to remove the controller from office, because that document elaborates on all of these specific allegations. So let me read a couple of them to you.
Wow.
So basically, in the petition to remove the controller, Mayor Thomas petitions the governor to remove Controller Reynolds. It's a 25-page document. In that document, paragraph 9, and I quote, the controller's bizarre and inexplicable refusal to perform her duties puts the health and safety of the citizens of Mount Vernon at risk. It puts the city of Mount Vernon in legal jeopardy, jeopardizes state funding, and makes it difficult for Mount Vernon employees to continue to work, which is exactly the same allegation that she made Thursday night in her statements. So it leaves you not knowing what to do. And there's a bunch of things in that petition. There's more. There's a petition. There's a Article 78 lawsuit that was filed in September, where the city of Mount Vernon is asking for relief, and it's basically to force the controller to pay the bills. There's that. There's a lot more detail in there. There's a response by the controller to the petition, and then there's a response to the response, and there's information in all of them. So I gathered a few things. In the petition, the complaint is all about fuel bills who haven't been paid, street light and traffic light bills haven't been paid, hardware vendors who haven't been paid. And in each instance, they say there was money on the proper budget line to pay the bills. In each instance, the relevant department head had signed off on the bills, and in each instance the bills have been submitted to the controller, who for no apparent reason has failed and refused to pay them. But on Thursday night, the controller said her reason for not paying some of these bills was that they came in incomplete, that the mayor bypassed the system, that she didn't have access to Munis, that appropriate account codes were never assigned.
Can you just slide over just a little? Yeah.
I'm going this way?
Yes.
And so the question is, which is it? And in the controller's response to the Article 78 lawsuit, she goes through a series of responses and says, well, this one's paid and that one's going to be paid and this one came in incomplete. She's got answers for this stuff because, when it's black and white and it's in front of a court, it's got to be square. You have to provide a meaningful answer. Anyway, so there's a sewer cleaning company that had a $34,000 outstanding bill. Same story. The recreation department, we've all heard the famous story about the recreation department didn't have toilet paper. And
the seniors.
And it goes on from there. So in the September 21, 2018 lawsuit, Richard Thomas, it's basically Richard Thomas as mayor of the city of Mount Vernon versus Deborah Reynolds as the controller for the city of Mount Vernon. It's an Article 78 lawsuit. Article 78, I'm not an attorney, but basically Article 78 is like a corner of the law that you use when you sue a government agency. That's what that is. And there's an interesting attachment to that lawsuit. There's an Exhibit A. Exhibit A contains 74 payment requests that were submitted all by the law department. These are bills from lawyers.
Wow.
And in that exhibit, so I should also point out that in that lawsuit, they spell out how much unpaid bills there are. And in December of 2017, it was like $136,000. By June of 2018, the unpaid bill total, they claim, had grown to $1.1 million. And within that $1.1 million, there were 4 bills totaling $278,000 from the law firm of Ruskin, Moscow, and Faltacek, which is Jerry Kremer's law firm, which, by the way, is representing the city in this lawsuit.
Right.
So it's wild. It's wild. That's that is what it is. I mean, I can kind of go on from there. The only other thing I thought was kind of interesting.
Were there any other law firms? Were you able to pull up any of the unpaid bills? Were there any other law firms?
Oh, a ton of other.
Because she kept saying, "I'm not paying
78 bills.
I'm not going to pay the mayor's lawyers."
So on Thursday night, one of the clear, ringing out comments that the controller made was, "I refuse to pay for the mayor's personal law bills." She put that out there. That's a significant statement. It's not implying. She's not tacitly implying. She's stating very clearly that a bill came in front of her and she refused to pay it for that purpose. Now, were all of these bills personal legal matters? They couldn't possibly have been, because there were dozens and dozens of them. They were city matters. I mean, it would seem to me, if I was an attorney doing business with the city of Mount Vernon, and I was relying on that income, I would diversify my portfolio of clients immediately, because it's going to be a tough one.
Now, I do want to say, so for context, this is nothing new. The former controller, the whole bills not being paid thing, the former controller accused Mayor Thomas of holding 206. The process is once it's ready to go, the check's ready to go, and it's cut, the controller signs it, and then she gives the check with a description to the mayor's office, who then signs it and then goes back to the controller's office, and then it gets mailed out. So she made a statement early on and had press conferences that Mayor Thomas was holding upwards to 261 checks that did not come back to her office, so they did not go out to be paid, and had held these checks for a period of over 2 months, when the process of things is supposed to, it's a certain amount of time before, to the point that, which led to the whole thing of then having council president Marcus Griffin
at the time
come
right,
in
right,
and
that.
sign checks which was supposed to be the insurance for the employees for the city, the electric bill,
Right.
for the Con Ed bill for the city, and some other like great things that were about to get shut off ASAP if they didn't sign. And then that fiasco came. So there's been a breakdown between how these checks, who's at fault. We're on our second controller, the same mayor, and he's now accusing her of what the controller was accusing him of.
Well, that is a critical point. So there was, and this is alluded to in Reynolds' response to the petition. She lists out some current pending matters before the Supreme Court of Westchester County, and the first one on that list is Thomas versus Maureen Walker over a failure to allegedly pay an invoice for a police vehicle and seeking additional access to the controller's financial records. So that you're pointing out that is there a fact pattern, which is we had a long-time controller, and this mayor complained that she wasn't paying the bills, and now he's got another controller who comes through like a different political channel, and he's complaining that she's not paying the bills. So what's, I don't know how to fill in the rest of that sentence, but there's something there that's consistent.
Well, I think it's also important for us to share with our viewers the ruling that the court made in the Article 78 hearing that the mayor undertook against Deborah Reynolds, not Deborah Reynolds, but Maureen Walker. And that I also was reviewing many of the filings and including the decisions that were rendered. And Judge Schwartz, in the case that was prompted by the failure of Comptroller Walker to pay for the police vehicle, issued the following ruling. The court has considered the following papers on the application of petitioner Richard Thomas, the mayor, for a preliminary injunction, specifies the particular documentary evidence that was submitted, and then states, because the mayor has not shown by clear and convincing evidence an entitlement to a preliminary injunction, the application is denied. In the ruling, the court discusses the mayor's claim that the former controller, Maureen Walker, had impeded his duly authorized authority to access the financial records of the city instantaneously, which is set forth in the charter.
Well, and he actually wanted access to the account. He wanted the actual account.
Which is the key issue of contention. And I very thoroughly, very closely read, as closely as a layperson could, the initial ruling last year. Also compared it to, looked at the contract that the Chase Bank had struck with the city and the New York State banking laws. My sense is that New York State banking law specifically identifies a single individual for a municipal corporation who is to serve as the main administrator for a city's financial records and accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And the New York State law, so far as I read it, and I confess I am not a lawyer, so I could have misconstrued things, but my reading of the statutes that I was able to take a look at was that it would be improper and unlawful for the mayor, who is not the city's chief financial officer, to have full access to the bank's records, including, and this is the issue, the nub of the issue, if we give you access to the bank's records, how can we restrict your ability to also execute financial transactions? And so it closes out, the ruling closes out, in balancing the equities, the court finds at this stage of the proceedings there are issues of fact concerning, one, the scope of the online access that can be provided to the mayor by the controller, two, whether the controller intentionally dishonored the check to the dealership, and three, whether she has otherwise failed to pay duly authorized bills and expenses of executive department. Thus, the court declines to impose the drastic remedy of a preliminary injunction Accordingly, it is ordered that the mayor's application for a preliminary injunction is denied, and it is ordered that the comptroller or his or her successor is to file an answer to the petition on or before January 31st of 2018. Now, I do also want to add that the subsequent iteration of this case that Comptroller Reynolds is now in court for is being presided over by Judge Kakasi. Is that her?
Yes.
Yeah.
I never pronounced the name right, but that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
judge,
good
yeah.
case, Susan.
Thank
Good
you.
case.
And she, her clerk just sent the mayor's office a letter, all the parties to the litigation, a letter instructing them to please appear in her chambers. And it was supposed to be, I think the date was December 12th. They were supposed to appear in chambers so that essentially she would look to referee the dispute in the interest of, you know, justice and efficiency of government, really raising the question as to whether we should be engaged in such contentious litigation over this matter.
That is the core question that I came across going, because if they continue to duke it out in court with petitions and affidavits, you know, it's amazing. We're going to get to know a whole lot about what goes on inside the grist mill.
Very good
of
read.
City Hall. That's great and everything, but I mean, if you're a vendor doing business with the city, or you're a citizen depending upon a revenue stream or a voucher or something like that, you might not get what you're looking for. And
And I want to add, we have people that listen to this show
Yeah.
who have companies that are vendors that I know were waiting for their checks for months and months and months and months.
And what do you do?
They refer not to be mentioned, so I won't,
Right,
but
right.
they listen to the show.
So that's the practical side of it. Now, and there's another layer up from that, which is how do you budget for 2019? And here's where I think the controller's comments were, I don't want to say encoded, but you kind of have to look a little bit in between the lines. You got a couple of clues. One thing that she kept coming back to was that she mentioned, and I wrote the quote down there, but she said something to the effect that we don't know how many contracts the mayor has entered into outside of the munis process, outside of the conventional voucher process, or outside of the appropriate channel for engaging with a new contractor. Right? I
Right.
gather there's a process. It has got to go before the Board of Estimate and so forth.
Yes.
And what she's saying is that the mayor has circumvented, thank you, that process, and her remarks sort of inject a certain amount of gas into the air, because you don't know. Are we talking about one thing, 10 things, or 100 things? Is it this big? Is it this big, or is it this big?
Well,
And she's implying that there isn't going to be a 2% tax increase next year. She's tacitly implying that it's going to be very substantial, and we don't know how large, because we don't know what we don't know.
Well, we've talked to some councilmen. There's been plenty of accusations of contracts being given to people that are close to the mayor's administration without the proper bidding. So, for all these things, there has to be a bid. I think you have
Right.
to take at least 3 bids in,
Right.
and then they go with the best bid. But he's just giving them these process and contractors, and then because there was no bid and it didn't go through the process, the person doing it can't be paid. And in 2 of the situations, Figueroa's company, the bubble, the tennis bubble, and the Park Avenue zombie house, raising of the house, the so-called zombie house, he was not paid for those, and now he is suing the city. So now, the problem with that, one, there's been a complaint about no bid and not going through the process. Now we have other lawsuits again. Now we have to, these things have to be litigated or whatever.
So here's the capstone statement from her remarks on Thursday night to what you're talking about, AJ. I sent you the clip, but I'm just going to read it. Quote, "The mayor has executed contracts without the Board of Estimate approval required by the city charter. This has led to a number of lawsuits created by Mayor Thomas by vendors, because Mayor Thomas on his own decided upon the contract with vendors without checking with the controller's office to see if funding was available to pay these various vendors," unquote. that's the central statement that guides what you're talking about. And
Andre said he was paid. I'm sorry.
Figueroa was paid.
Yeah, I'm not sure who, but he said he was paid.
Well, I think for the first one, I don't know if he's been paid for the second one, which is the Kayla tennis. The first lawsuit was maybe $65,000. The tennis bubble, which took 45 minutes, he's suing for I think $35,000. I don't know what his billable hours are, but and Matumbo Muhammad said, and Andre said yes. Matumbo Muhammad said somebody's lying. Who? That is the reason why I wanted to do this show, and I invited you, who is not necessarily seen, like some people pigeonhole Black Westchester as just anti-mayor sometimes, and I know from your reporting you're a little more, you can't be boxed in either way. You know what I'm saying? Category. So I wanted to bring another perspective of this, and we can kind of, make
I appreciate that.
Because the bottom line is with this, much like the situation with the national level, which we will get to later, the president puts so much misinformation and provably false comments out there at a rapid fire pace
that you don't know what to
then
believe.
and then
Right.
the people, and then attacks the people who say that is not true, that now you sitting at home don't know what the hell is going on,
Right.
and who to believe. And we have that same thing locally in Mount Vernon, where you don't know if is the controller telling the truth
They
and just wants to
sounds
stop
like
the
they're
mayor.
both wrong.
Is the mayor, right, that everybody's just blocking him from doing all these great things he wants to do? Is the council who has been fighting him, the council members who have been active in fighting, are they telling the truth, or do they just want his position, as he puts it? Like, when you're sitting at home and you're hearing all this, and this is why Black Westchester has not run every story involved, because it gets dizzying and people become numb.
It is very hard to
You
figure
get what
out.
I'm saying? So
It is very, very difficult to figure out. And when I first sat down to listen to that recording over again, I got more confused on the second listen and more confused on the third listen. And it wasn't until I started parsing through the petitions and the lawsuits and the responses that I began to connect things a little bit better. And I still don't completely know the answer to the question that you're raising. I can tell you a couple of other interesting tidbits, if I may. So there was the petition to remove the controller by the mayor to the governor. I gather that has not been acted on yet. There was a response by the controller to that petition, and then there was a response to the response. In the response to the response, there's an affidavit of a guy named Brett Erasmus. Brett Erasmus is the commissioner of administrative services for the city. And he says that he has read-only access to Munis. So if that's true, then what the controller said on Thursday night is not true.
Couldn't be true.
Right? She's saying that her ability, her workflow, is being impeded by the mayor's direction, and that the Office of Administrative Services has taken over these. So I don't know.
The IT has locked it. They've gone in and locked it out. Is what she's saying exactly.
But he did say that he has read-only access to Munis, and that he can see that final journal entries for 2017 have not been completed. So in other words, they haven't closed the books on 2017 yet.
I just want to add, in addition to the controller brought this up, but this has also been brought up by the previous controller and the city council before. In the report that they have to send out in the audit and everything, the urban renewal agency is actually a separate agency that has their own audit, but they also have to turn it into the controller's office. So when the controller turns their paper in, it includes, and both Maureen and her staff explained it, and now that's what she mentions, Deborah Reynolds mentions, the 2016 and 2017 reports from the urban renewal have not been turned in, and this is what she's saying, if these things are not turned in by January 1st.
You can lose funding.
Right.
You can lose your funding stream.
So,
right.
I mean, we've heard from multiple sources that these reports are not being done.
Right.
Because Maureen held a hearing, a city council town hall of the city council, where and she had the lawyers and the auditors there, who also explained that they have not received this information and they can't give the full picture of what they're supposed to hand in.
And there's a parallel to the water story too.
Right.
Which is that certain filings
We're
were never
supposed to-
done or weren't done on time.
Right.
Okay, so then in this affidavit by this Brett Erasmus, who's a commissioner who works directly for the mayor and the Office of Administrative Services, paragraph 7, quote, historically the controller has sent out a monthly expense report to each city department as well as to the mayor and city council members. As the controller appears to have stopped doing that reporting, and after numerous requests to furnish that information from the city's departments and the city council members themselves, I, Brett Erasmus, assumed that responsibility, unquote. Now
who is he again?
He is a commissioner of, I may be using the wrong terminology, but it's like administrative services.
Okay.
IT rolls up to him.
Okay.
Administrative services is his responsibility as a commissioner. Reports directly to the mayor. But that statement, I assumed that responsibility of providing monthly expense reports, that kind of does align to what Deborah Reynolds said on Thursday night, that she hasn't had access to Munis. They're doing it on their own. So, I don't know.
I
just
want to
don't know.
add something, because the rulings that have been issued in the 3 cases in which Rich has sought some sort of judicial sanction against the comptroller are very telling in the court's assessment of the strength of the documentary evidence that was presented. And here I'm going to read a brief snippet from the ruling that was issued by Judge LaBelle in the Memorial Field case, because it speaks to the veracity of a lot of the claims that are being made in these court filings. And here you go. Quote, upon review of the papers submitted in support of this application, the court finds that the petitioner, Mayor Thomas, has failed to properly demonstrate the existence of a meritorious case of action. Petitioner's mere assertion that a report attached to the petition is a true and correct copy of a report documenting the city's expenditures for the Memorial Field redevelopment project neither renders the report a business record nor otherwise renders it in proper evidentiary form. Likewise, petitioner's assertion upon information and belief are likewise of no evidentiary value. Finally, the copy of the order of consent between the Department of Environmental Conservation and the City of Mount Vernon, upon which the petitioner places much reliance, is not executed by either party thereto. As such, it is of no value to the court. In other words, any assertion that Mayor Thomas makes in these court filings is to be taken with a grain of salt. And in that case, the mayor's petition to the court was also denied. I also want to add, just read a line from the ruling by Judge Fafudio. Is that correct? In the dispute involving the funding of the health insurance to the commissioner planning. I don't know. She made an appearance before the city council. The director of the Urban Renewal Agency. Quote, I mean, let me just cut to the chase. In any event, the respondent has said that there is no issue delaying the transfer of money other than that of where the money is supposed to originate, the respondent being the controller. The respondent has even identified 2 vacant commissionerships from where the money would come. The petitioner has the authority and the ability to refer proposed legislation, and there is at least one method other than new legislation for correcting already voted upon ordinances. Finally, there does not appear to be any opposition by either the mayor's office or the city council to making the commissioner's job a fully funded job within the city of Mount Vernon. The court is perplexed as to why these apparent simpler and certainly cheaper methods have not been employed, and instead the petitioner has resorted to litigation in an attempt to resolve this matter. And I shared with you earlier a link to a low-HUD investigation, AJ, in which investigative reporters for our paper of record here in Westchester County noted a disturbing pattern on the part of many municipalities to outsource their legal expenses. And the implication is that this is a way of elected officials to essentially pay back their supporters. Indeed, this problem has become so pronounced in the state of New York that Governor Cuomo just recently proposed in his call to increase the amount of money that the state legislators could make a legal restriction on the amount of outside business activity that they could engage in, because he noted that many of our legislators are lawyers, and so there's all kind of payments that are going back.
Right.
It is. Look, not only was Moscow Valtowitz, but who is Jeffrey Buss? I mean, Jeffrey Buss is on half of these damn suits. This has been Joe Spezio's lawyer for at least 10, 15 years. Joe Spezio's personal lawyer. How is Joe Spezio's personal lawyer being selected by the corporate counsel, whose very appointment is under question, to carry out legal services for our city when the city charter expressly forbids officers from either directly or indirectly benefiting from any kind of contracts? And it's interesting that in the recent filing by the New York State Attorney General's Office of Public Integrity, they provide a very detailed exposition of the connections between Mayor Thomas, Joe Spezio, the various lawyers that he has brought in, Figueroa and Son. I mean, there is a bunch of incestuous ties that are allowing, these monies to be shifted back and forth. And as a matter of fact, my recollection serves me correct, the Office of Public Integrity uncovered emails or something that basically where Joe Spezio said, hey, now that Figueroa and Sons, you'll need to pay Figueroa and Son his money because he owes me money.
So there's
I want to because unlike much like the national situation, this is some kind of this conversation can go on for hours. What I would like to do for the people that's listening.
AJ, I can say something too. I'm on.
Okay. Yeah.
All you guys pinpoints is like really head on. I'm not gonna lie. And we kept touching bases on question of like, not as the fact of like, what are we like we're just baffled, like it's oblivious at the end of the day, like what is all this, like literally like this really illegal legal laundering, embezzlement, all this type of like, and mostly to the people that, like you said, are numb to it. It's just they're going through legal issues, they're going just through like just politics, you know what I mean? Who's gonna be the Robin Hood? Well, who's gonna you know what I'm saying? Who's gonna?
We still trying to figure that.
Yeah,
we're still
that's
trying to
the
figure
moral
that.
of the story. Like,
right. But what I want to do, I want to stop you right there. What I want to do is I want to, for those listening, what can they do? How do we find out? I mean, I want you to give your assessment of the situation.
All right.
As to the residents, like what.
I have a couple of thoughts. Before I answer your question.
Then I want to wrap that up with you.
And that'll be my wrap up. And a quick one before that, because there was one other nugget that I found when I was looking at the controller's response to the petition. So this is the document in which she specifically responds to each of the charges. They use this Latin word ad seriatim, which means, I had to look it up, it means I'm going to go through the whole thing in order. And that's what she did. She responded to every single one of the charges that was in the petition, how the bill got paid or didn't get paid and why. But before that section of the document, there's one paragraph 16, which I think is fascinating because it speaks to not the political side, not the legal side, but the interpersonal implications of this whole thing. Paragraph 16, I'm going to read it to you. Mayor Thomas has ridiculed Comptroller Reynolds at every opportunity. After she took office in January of 2018, he treated her as if she was one of his secretaries or interns and told her that he was glad to have her working for him. He began to tell her what to do, including who to terminate in her office and other matters. Upon information and belief, if the controller was a man, Mayor Thomas would not be treating her in that manner. Mayor Thomas has not learned any lessons from the hashtag #MeToo movement.
Wow.
Now, where does that come from?
That came from Comptroller Reynolds' response to the petition to remove her.
She was representing herself pro se.
No, she had an attorney.
She had an attorney.
She has an attorney who
Right.
drafted this
Right. Okay.
legal response, but these are, her words.
So, like I said, so now, coming to some kind of a conclusion. Like, I know we can't conclude it.
So
but
my conclusion would be
what-
this, AJ. My conclusion is, it kind of to Brandon's remarks. The decider, this is my 2 cents here. The decider ultimately is voters, because both of these people are elected officials, and voters will decide where their tolerance is. But right now, these people have asked the courts to make a decision on it. The governor and the courts. That's where it is right now. Now, unfortunately, those organizations go really, really slow. There's going to have to be a 2019 budget. They're going to have to figure out what the status of the city's finances are really quick. Whoever has access to Munis is going to have to figure it out, and they're going to have to construct a budget and put it in front of voters. Correction, it's not a voted budget. They're going to have to put it in front of the Board of
residents.
Estimate,
Yeah,
and then the City Council. I was still in school board mode there for a second,
Right.
but they're going to have to put it in front of Board of Estimate, City Council, and they're going to have to decide whether to ratify that budget. And then ultimately, it goes back to voters in September.
So, is there anything that can be done now? Is it how do you
Well, now,
and how do we?
Here's what I would
how
say.
How do we navigate? How do we navigate the bullshit? Because there's too much. I mean, bottom line.
Well,
bottom line. How do we navigate? Because a lot of people can't
Bob
navigate
touched
through
on
this
it.
stuff.
Bob touched on it a minute ago. Low HUD, if you're listening,
Right.
this is a situation that could really use an investigative journalist. Somebody can pick up the phone and they can read all these same documents. I have no special level of access. They can call those vendors. They can call these individuals who have filed affidavits and ask them, did you get paid? How long did it take you to get paid? Did you get paid entirely? And on and on and on. And maybe that's another, and that's why People Before Politics Radio show in Black Westchester is so important, because the media is another check and balance against this stuff. That's my answer.
Wrap up on this. For the rest of people listening,
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that has further compounded the confusion is my sense that many of our elected officials are simply deviating from the requirements of the city charter. For example, it's important for us to note that, unless I missed something, the city charter says that the annual estimate was supposed to be presented in the end of November. Was that presented? Because we wouldn't have had the confusion of Thursday's night hearing had all of the respective members of the Board of Estimate actually complied with the requirements of the charter and hammered out an initial estimate that was going to be discussed in public at a public hearing. That has not happened, correct?
no,
Correct. I believe that is correct.
no.
The budget has not been presented to Board of Estimate.
So that means that not only has the mayor been derelict, not only has the comptroller been derelict, but it also means that the current sitting city council president has to assume partial responsibility for this impasse that we are now in. I do not understand this.
It's
I
not good.
do understand it.
No, it's not good for the City Council. You're right. It's not good for the City Council.
It's not good. The
Yeah.
bottom line is the bottom line right now. No matter whose side you think is
Right.
telling the truth, no matter whose side you're on, who you voted for, basically the voters, the residents and the taxpayers are the losers in this scenario. That's the bottom line. And the city cannot no longer continue with this same sort of dysfunction.
Who's going to be the Robin Hood?
Right, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's enough dysfunction. I said this during the Davis administration as well, which then Councilman Thomas and Reynolds were on the city council. Even then, I said this, we need these elected officials to get it right. And I keep hearing something about the state taking over. Be careful what you ask for, because when the state takes over, they do what they want. They don't do what's in the best interest of the city.
When the state takes over, you get Flint, Michigan, and poisoned water.
Right.
No one thinks that's good. And by the way, I don't know that many people at the state level. They probably don't want it either.
They don't want to be involved. They really. They were calling for Cuomo to remove Thomas for almost a year. They don't want no parts of this stuff. They want y'all to, and we had one judge, and this is the last thing I'll say, we had one judge and one of these rulings between the city council and the mayors saying that basically y'all are coming to me for things that your charter already says.
Judge Nearing said.
Right. There's no
any reasonable person would be able to.
And he gave them the whole first page or two of his ruling was an ethic breakdown of their responsibility of how a government should run.
Right.
This is what a judge is like. He was basically like you would sit your two kids down and be like, "This is how it should be," and you know what I'm saying? Like that's what a judge did. Like and it was ignored evidently or not taken serious. So calling the feds again, be careful what you wish for in that level. Although I think there might be a need of federal intervention. And also what you get with state taking over is the completion of what we about to go through this gentrification thing in a minute. So that like you know what? You said, do they want to be involved? I would not put it past, and I can't say this with a certainty, that there are certain powers that are letting this continue on so that the property value can go down, so crime can go up, so all of this dysfunction, so it can be taken over for gentrification, and all of these people are going to be out of there.
Like the mass tax certiorieries, the write-downs. It is a very cynical interpretation of the decision-making, but I have not eliminated, like AJ, the possibility that this is a deliberately engineered crisis on the part of many anonymous property owners in the city of Mount Vernon who have hid their identity through the use of LLCs. For me, Jerry Kremer, from what I can determine, has a very shady reputation. And I do not put it beyond him and Joe Spezio to collude with the mayor, essentially to bankrupt the city and possibly create a crisis that would make gentrification a little easier.
Yeah, well, I want to move off of Mount Vernon real quick. While it is impossible to sum up in 5 to 7 minutes this past week that Donald Trump has had and all that has gone on, it is impossible to even list all the things that has happened. Can you give us a little synopsis of what we're dealing with on the national level?
It's very hard to give you a brief synopsis, but you have a presidency that's crumbling. You have, I don't even know if the word is out of control. Maybe he's in control, but it's not the control that anyone would associate with a presidency. He fired Mad Dog Mattis.
Yes.
Half the people that were there when he started are gone.
Actually, some of them have been replaced 2 and 3 times.
And you're right. He's gotten rid of. He said he knew more than the generals, and now he's firing the generals. I don't know what to say.
He say he knows more than the intelligence community too.
I think he was embarrassed by the media coverage suggesting that his chief of staff was the grown-up in the room, and that necessary to control the impetulant and out of control Donald Trump. I think he was embarrassed by it, so he got rid of him. And it's going to be a lot of shock and awe, I think, in January, because Democrats newly in control of the House of Representatives are going to be under a great deal of pressure to do something. We don't know quite what the Mueller probe is going to say, but it's going to say something in the next 60 days, and then all heck is going to break loose. And then the question is, how badly do they want to damage him, or do they want to completely destroy him and impeach him? All of those choices have political implications on both sides of the aisle, but it's not going to go well. And then,
the New York State Attorney General aspect, the state stuff.
Well, you've got Southern District of New York, you've got the Mueller probe, you've got the stock market collapsing.
I think that's most telling, that was what he banked on. And a lot of his people were like, I hear all that stuff you're saying, but the stock market is lovely right now and is going up. And he took credit for that.
Right.
And he took credit for that. And he took credit for that. And now he's like, why are they blaming me for
plenty of people
the decline?
Plenty of people said when it was on the way up that this mania of this Donald Trump presidency will last until the minute it goes the other way. And I think that's what we're seeing happen.
And they're talking about not only going back to the conditions that it was in before Obama took over, which was definitely some grave conditions, but they talking about a December going back to
1987,
going back to 39 in the Great Depression. You know what I'm saying? Like this could be the worst December ever.
Yeah,
like,
I think
the percentage drop.
There was a statistic. There was a day or a couple of days in a row that were the worst declines since the Great Depression last week. So it's a very serious matter, but the word that no one wants to hear is volatility, because it'll come up, it'll go back down, it'll come up, it'll go back down. But that volatility wreaks havoc on markets, and we will feel it on Main Street. It'll show up in the price of fuel. It'll show up in the price of food. It'll show up in the price of housing. It'll show up in the price of borrowing money, because interest rates are going up. So it's going to be a rocky ride, and you're just beginning to see the beginning of it. That's my thinking.
And I do want to add that there was a dramatic there had been a very sort of secretive kind of court battle that was taking place between Robert Mueller, the special counsel's office, and a unidentified bank that was associated with a sovereign bank. The lawyers for the sovereign bank had requested from several different courts that the Mueller subpoena be quashed.
Are you talking about the Deutsche Bank thing?
Well, it's not clear who that is.
They didn't say what bank that they're going after, because they're thinking they're alluding to possibly the banks in Russia that's owned by the.
Or it could be the Saudis, because
one of those two.
These authoritarian. I mean, there seems to be some countries that are especially apt to use these kind of sovereign banks to do their bidding. But the counsel for this bank has now made an appeal to the Supreme Court of the United States to quash the subpoena and simultaneously ask the Supreme Court to withhold the identity of the bank. And one of the articles that I read said that this would be the first time in Supreme Court history that it had taken up a case for which it did not provide full and transparent information on its ruling.
And we'll have to see what they do with that one.
Yeah, it is very frightening.
There's a lot of very scary stuff going on there.
Nationally, locally, the sum up is we're in for a very interesting 2019, and we have a bunch of serious matters facing us locally and nationally. I don't know. I mean, like
the distraction's gonna get bigger too.
Right. Because some of these things, it's interesting. The distractions, like Trump and Thomas have. It's funny. I keep saying those names together. Trump and Thomas have the gift of giving us these distracting things that have nothing to do with anything to get us off of what's really going on and what's really happening. and get us discussing ferries coming back and forth to, and comparing us to we're gonna be with Miami to take to like stuff that has
nonsense
like,
piece
like,
was that?
Like
You read that piece of garbage?
Like these things have nothing. These things, the more they get us talking about these type of things. Trump does the same thing. Get us talking about these type of things, and we're not talking about what's really going on and what.
That's fair. No, I agree with that sentiment. But you don't want me to agree with every single thing you say, right? So let me say this to you. The idea of maybe having a ferry that goes from Mount Vernon to LaGuardia Airport, it's far-fetched. It's a big, audacious idea. It's a distraction. I don't disagree with you. But it's also kind of a cool idea. And you want your mayor to have big, audacious ideas.
Right.
But you also want the garbage to be picked up, and you want the snow removal to be right, and you want to have confidence that people who aren't paying their bills, are being asked to pay their bills. I'm talking about the water department stuff.
Right.
Whatever. The basic
brought
management of
up-
the city needs to be there. But hang on. I don't think that's exactly the same thing as Trump distracting the entire world with a bunch of fake baloney about immigration.
Oh yes, I mean,
It's a
there's
different
different levels.
Right.
But I'm just saying they, the parallel of what's going on the national level, not just Mount Vernon, some other cities too.
Oh sure.
And what's going on in the national level is
There are
just
things going on
like,
all over the country and all over the world all the time, and the only way you know about it, that's why you gotta subscribe to Black Westchester. You gotta tune
thank
into
you for that.
blackwestchester.com.
Thank
You
you for
gotta
that.
get the New York Times. You gotta look at the Washington Post online, whatever. You know what's
Yes.
going on. You gotta keep. I'm preaching to the choir here, but
right. No, but that's true. Now, I only have like 5 minutes. I have you, Brandon, here, and I want you to tell everybody who you are, how you came to find out about Black Westchester, the conversation we had. So I want you to, so you're not just sitting there the whole time.
Oh, no, I understand. Yeah, my name is Brandon Parks. I am a graduate from Manhattanville College. Shout outs to Manhattanville. And also SUNY Del High, too, up in the Catskills.
Okay.
Big ups to SUNY Del High as well. And each and every day, I'm just trying to really broaden my horizons, and just find out little.
Make sure you speak into the mic too, just so I think you are,
That's
but
how you know it's my first
Yeah.
time. But yeah, like I just like doing research, you know what I mean? Like, and really, I had a new position, a new job position. I'm not gonna really get down into like what I do and stuff. I'm not no real like top secret agent or nothing like that. But yeah, just for the sake of like, I know I had signed off on what I do with my position and stuff.
Right.
But I did a little research behind just my job, just people work there and whatnot. And simultaneously, it's crazy how things come together. Black Westchester came up in an article. I'm like, oh wow, this is new. Clicked on it. From there, I'm just trying to search from. I got a moral of the story from. Basically, I got like what information I got from just doing research led to Black Westchester, because they put an article in a specific topic, which honestly will be obviously brought up in the next showing. Basically, just like racial prejudice, like just bullshit. Can I? I'm sorry,
Yeah. We don't have an FCC, so
Yeah,
we don't
honestly,
do it. We don't just throw them out anyway. But you can. It's not an FCC. We're
I'm
gonna
trying
get
to
fined.
switch up my
Yeah.
vernacular here. But yeah, for real, it's really. I don't want to say it's crazy. It's honestly, it's a blessing in disguise that I got a chance to find out information.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, you good. Information primarily from this. You know what I'm saying? Just from my job. You know what I'm saying? And just from there, I'm like, oh my gosh, Black Westchester is interesting. Perspective from black person.
News with a black point of view. Yes.
Yeah. Amazing. From there, I just trying to find out contact information. Like, yo, I want to reach out. Like, I'm 25 years old right now. Like, I feel like just the older I'm getting, the more I'm like,
Well, he
We're
laughing.
sorry, Will.
He laughing because you said 20. You said 25, and I'm about to be 53 in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
So
I'm
it's
like,
just like,
My
I'm
adrenaline
going
is just
52
there.
myself.
Yeah, my adrenaline is there. So I just want to just.
We remember when
I
we
just
thought 50 was, or 25 was
I know.
old.
It's a different vintage.
I'm just like, I just want to. I'm at a point in life. I just want to react in the right way, just basically off of what I retain. I like to call it like retain and recite, double R.
Mhm.
Yeah, and like just everything, just make sure it just goes congruent. You know what I'm saying? And this is the perfect platform. So from there, I reached out to you. We kept in touch through via email and from text. You had called me, told me to come by to the show. I'm like, yeah. And first thing I want to say too, just like I wanted to mention, I want to help out any type of way with no compensation, none of that, because I know you had told me that was just don't want to get involved with it, like mentioning people's names. I don't even know them, but like just people who just want to do this for the compensation, and that's just honestly lame. Like why not help people?
Well, let me
You know
just
what I mean?
let me say I was impressed, but I got the email. Basically it says I'm in. That was like the heading. I'm in.
Yeah.
And I read it, and I don't need to reiterate everything that I do. I mean, we say that all the time. So it was just like I never got a chance to get back to you, and I read the email like 3 times and kept meaning to get back to you. But I had so many other things on my mind, and I was like, you know what? I hadn't got back to you. I was like, yo, here's my number. Call me. So I was impressed by basically he was like, yo, I love what y'all are doing, and more of our people need to see this, and I want to get involved in any way I can to help basically build the brand and expand it. Yeah. And I was like, yo, I was moved by that, and I was just like, we had
coming soon.
Right.
Soon.
So then it was just like, so then it was like, yo, and while we were talking, we were going to meet later this week, and then the holiday coming up, and I was like, you know what, come to the show. And then, so this is our first face-to-face meeting. But it goes back to what I said before. A lot of our team and a lot of the people who support us and a lot of the people who have volunteered and stuff, it happened organically like that. You know what I'm saying? Like people, like they felt they liked what we saw. And, sometimes they'll do what they can and then they back out, and then they come back various times. Like, it's different levels of whatever. Right. Yeah, but it's just like, I was just moved, and it came at a time that Bob personally knows and Lorraine and Damon personally know, where I was questioning whether I was going to continue to do this in 2019, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? One, because the lack of financial support and advertising. Because what I don't want to do is charge people to get the paper. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to charge you $200 to appear on this show. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying, like that, because then we don't get to cover those issues that need to be covered with people who don't have no money. You know what I'm saying, and that's what too much things is going. Because people are like, yo, you could get $200 for that video you made. Charge them. Like I interviewed you and then I charged you $200. I come from the music business and I used to get mad when they used to charge the artists to perform in an artist showcase. Right. I'm going to charge you $300, $400, $500 to perform to showcase your talent. Yeah. And no, then that's not an artist showcase.
It's hard to do that.
You know what I'm saying?
With the news format, I think it's very tough to do.
Right.
Something like that.
So I was balancing whether we were going to continue, whether people were really getting it, whether when people get numb to all of this stuff. I get numb putting it out. You understand what I'm saying? And it's like you wonder if you're making a difference. Mm-hmm. You wonder if you're really reaching the people and if it really matters. And the interaction I had with this young man, you know what I'm saying? As well as other things too. But was that to remind me what we do is important. You understand what I'm saying? And that was another reason in this conversation we had. So while I haven't had this much of a conversation out loud on the air, Bob can tell you he's heard an earful, and Lorraine and Damon and a few other people can tell you, Caitlin, they've heard an earful of this for the last 3 or 4 months. You know what I'm saying? So, this shows you sometimes. I learned a lesson early on. Sometimes it does make dollars even if it doesn't make sense yet. I mean, it makes sense even if it doesn't make dollars. I'm sorry. Well, you know what I'm saying?
But you're also you're building an audience, and think
Right.
about how far this show is. I mean, I've been watching it for about 3 years approximately, and think of some of the guests you've had. And I saw George Latimer on here. I saw Andrew Stewart Cousins was on here.
2 or 3
Absolutely.
times.
Yeah. So she's been on a few times. I mean, you're getting real people to sit down and talk about big issues.
Someone, I just want to say, Matumbo Muhammad said, "People before politics / red blue sounds like network news, like a network news channel." I thank you for those kind words.
Those are kind,
Like,
those are kind words. But you really built this thing, and the show drives the newspaper, which there is an advertising model there,
Right.
And I think that's only going to get more successful as you build the audience bigger and bigger, and encourage people to really do it. And if there's people out there watching, and you have a business, consider taking out an ad in Black Westchester. Because talk to AJ about it. He's got subscriber information for you, and it's really a great way to reach an audience.
Right. So I thank you for that, and I just wanted to go back to you, and I was thanking you for sometimes it's like I'm a spiritual person, so depending what it is that you believe, but sometimes God will let you know. Like you had, like I was having those kind of conversations where, like, what is like you're at that crossroads. You're like, am I gonna go to something else? You know what I'm saying? Or am I gonna continue to build this thing? And does this thing matter? You understand what I'm saying? And it's just like that whole thing in the Bible. It says He won't put more on you than you can bear. And when you come to that point, He surrounds you. He starts putting elements in that you're missing. You know what I'm saying? Like organically, and that was like what his conversation meant to me, and that was one of the reasons I really wanted to have him come and meet y'all. Damon's not here. You'll meet Damon another time, and we'll talk about how we all with the different things and stuff. And I invite you to come back and then one of the areas that you live in, Peekskill, is one of the areas that I most I can't get to Peekskill all the time. There's a lot going on up there. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of coverage that we don't get in those regions, with Black Westchester. So there's we're not getting coverage in those regions. And the paper, the person who was bringing the paper out there, is not able physically to do that no more. So there's been a lull. There's been a lull for that. You know what I'm saying? But, shout out to Peekskill. Shout out to Mayor Rainey, who is coming on the show, who keeps saying
has
he's
been
coming
on the show.
No, but he's been on the show a few times, but he's been coming back for the last couple of weeks, and I'm still waiting for you to confirm, Mayor Andre Rainey, to come back to Black Westchester to let us know what's going on in Peekskill. So we got like 2 minutes.
I got a friendly suggestion.
Yeah.
Capstone thought too. So you might want to consider
who.
You might want to consider inviting the controller on here. Let her talk about it.
I actually do. Deborah Reynolds is welcome to come on the show. Yeah. Her husband sometimes wants to, whatever. But she knows she's always welcome. She's been welcome. She's been verbally told that she's welcome when she first took the position. She is welcome. We've had Maureen on eventually. You know what I'm saying? We want to get to the bottom of this. But I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Like I said, this is way more than we could actually solve in one day. But I wanted to start the conversation. I wanted to bring some sense, because it's so much going on. You can't keep track of it. It's like, it's just, like I said, it is really numbing. And I don't write, for every story I write, I keep saying there's 20 stories I didn't write, because I know people are tired of hearing about the bickering in Mount Vernon, some of the bickering in Yonkers government, because I cover that a lot, and some of the other things going on in the people are tired of some of that. When there's no solution, I get tired of writing it. But this, I think we're getting to a point we need to get to the bottom of it. And we're different players, and we're still in the same situation. The situation's only getting worse. So I wanted to address that as much as possible. I'm hoping that I encourage people to be more active, go to your council meetings, question your elected officials. Deborah Reynolds said she welcomes people to come to her office, and she will explain it to you. Go ask her the questions personally. Go ask your mayor what's going on. You know what I'm saying? We're going to have to get involved. When is the deadline to advertise in next month's paper?
There you go.
Actually, in the next few days. Thank you, Wednesday, Thursday, because we're probably gonna come out after the first, because I'm chill for the holiday. So yeah, Wednesday, Thursday. Hit us at blackwestchester@gmail.com. Anybody who wants to advertise, anybody who wants to be a sponsor on the show, find out, ask me, and we'll do that. Thank you for everybody who's tuned in. Dawn Dobbs, Stan Ridley, Matumbo Muhammad, Cynthia Turnquest Jones, who said welcome, Brandon.
Tracy Cates.
Tracy Cates, Gail Baxter, Reggie Lafayette.
My niece Cammie, who was tuned in, and my cousin June.
Right. Yo, what's up to both of them? Jesse Van Loo just tuned in towards the end. D. Wilson, as always.
The coverage from Peekskill, too, that's just going to be a whole nother plateau.
Right.
Too. I just want to mention that.
Because I've had all the candidates on before, and they all tuned in. We're about to run out of time. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Happy holidays. This is Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show.
Peace,
Until next week, peace.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.